for people to look better. Okay. And can I get everybody that's not a speaker to mute their screens or their computers, please? We got some background noise here. Let's see. Okay. Sounds like we're good. Okay. So once again, sorry, I'm a little frazzled here. My name's Casey Harriet. I'm the NWTF R3 coordinator. R3 stands for Recruitment, Retention, and Reactivation. And hopefully most of the people on here were on Turkey Tuesday last week, and you guys have heard my spiel already. But basically, I create programs and initiatives that increase hunting participation here in Oklahoma. And today we are going to be talking about gear essentials, setup, how you would hunt these turkeys out in the field here, and what all you need to do so. And so right now we have two guest speakers. We have Rick Nolan, who is going to be our first speaker, and he is on the NWTF state board right there with the hat tilt. And then we have Bobby Armstrong, who's the Save the Hunt coordinator for NWTF as well, and he is on a state board. And then we also have Mr. Chad Parkey here, who was the guest speaker last week, and we're going to kind of be opening it up to a discussion towards the end where we think we really kind of get a lot of good information, and we think that's kind of our bread and butter. So we're going to make sure we have a long period of time for question and answers. And before I give the floor to Rick, I'm going to suggest if you guys have any questions along the way, type them in the chat box, and then I'll field all those questions at the end for that Q&A. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Rick Nolan here for him to talk about some gear and firearms.
All right, Casey, I appreciate it, and I appreciate the opportunity to be able to talk with you folks tonight. Casey, can you share the PowerPoint or fix it where I can share it? If not, I'll just wing it and kind of go through it.
Okay, I'm on my husband's computer right now, so I do not have that. I'm wondering.
Rick, you can share the screen down at the bottom.
Well, when I hit that, it says the host disabled participant sharing.
Okay, I'm going to make you a host, so maybe that will help.
Can you make me a host too? Because I have a PowerPoint.
Yes.
So,
Does that work now? I might have to switch it halfway through. It says Rick is now the host, so I don't know if I can share multiple hosts here.
Well, doggone it, I just lost everything.
Oh.
I'm on a screen now that I don't know how I got there or why I'm there.
Well, we might take a second there then.
Yeah. Let's see.
In the meantime, I might be able to load up my computer. I'm going to try to do this since it kind of started working, but this one.
There it is.
You got it? Okay. Yep. Fantastic.
Okay. So let's see. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Oh, good. So just quickly, I want to talk just a little bit about gear and guns, and Bobby, I think maybe going to elaborate too on guns. So one of the most essential things I think you'll find when you're turkey hunting is having a good camouflage outfit. And, I don't know that it makes a whole lot of difference what brand or what pattern you use, so long as you use something that adequately breaks up your outline for the turkeys. Turkeys got really good eyesight. I think they probably got better eyesight than a white-tailed deer. And they pick up movement really, really well. So you need some, what I say is head to toe camo, including your face and gloves. I think it's real, real important. And one of the things that I think is overlooked a lot by turkey hunters is what you wash your clothes in. I think you should be careful and wash your clothes in with a detergent that, and I don't know what it's called, but it doesn't brighten the colors. What I use is just a hypoallergenic, non-brightening dish clothes washing detergent. I think that the turkeys really have an ability to pick up UV, and if you try to brighten your clothes, that's enhancing the UV of your clothes. So try to avoid that. And the other most important thing is don't wear red, white, and blue or black in any shape or form. Turkeys can see color, and if you look at a gobbler, his head is red, white, and blue. And if you're wearing any of those colors, that tom is going to pick that up really quick, especially if you're sitting on the ground in front of him. So when you think about gear, I think one of the handiest items, it's certainly not necessary, but it's awfully handy, and that's to have a turkey vest. They've got a lot of pockets to carry your stuff in. The one here on the left on the screen is a lounger. You kind of sit in that and lean back into it. That's my preference, but I'm not going to say I'm fat. I'm just going to say I'm overweight, and it's a whole lot easier for me to get up and down if I've got that leaner to lean back into. But there's several good brands and options for turkey vest, and just get one that you're comfortable with. You know, turkey calls is the other thing that you're probably going to need for spring turkey hunting. And there's several different kinds, but I would suggest that whichever kind you go with, just practice with it and get really good with it and comfortable with it. This particular one here is a box call. They're very popular and they're fairly easy to use. Pot calls are another call that's fairly easy to use once you kind of get used to it. The trick with a pot call is getting the striking surface conditions just right. And you can get slate or crystal or glass or aluminum. There's any number of different pot calls surfaces that you can get and get very efficient at imitating a hen. A mouth call, a lot of people struggle with using a mouth call. It takes a lot of practice to get good with them. They call them a diaphragm. But once you kind of get used to it, they're really, really good when you get a tom close and you can't be moving around much. You can make that sound without moving your hands. You know, and this is referred to as a push-pull call. They're fairly inexpensive, and I'm becoming more and more a fan of these because they're really, really easy to use, especially for a beginner. And, you know, I've got one here. If I can figure out this is how easy it is to use. And you don't have to move a whole lot, and they're very, very effective. And then a wing bone call, which is actually made out of a turkey wing. And, you know, and I'll just mention, we just heard today that Ron Jordan, who lives in Oklahoma, and he is a well-known wing bone turkey call maker. He passed away yesterday. So that's too sad because he's made a ton of these things and he gives a bunch of them to the NWTF to raise funds with. Really, really first-class guy. And it saddens me to know that he passed away yesterday. And you know, when you're looking for birds, early morning, late at night, in the evening, when you're trying to figure out where they're roosting, you can use a shot call to get those toms to gobble off of the roost. You know, a crow call's good, or an owl call. I even use a coyote call sometimes to get them to sound off so I'll know where they're at. In regards to a turkey gun, I don't know, Bobby, did you have that on your agenda to talk about?
No, sir, that's yours.
Okay. You know, about any shotgun will work if you've got the right ammunition to put in it, you know, a 12 or a 16 or a 20 gauge. And even in the last few years, 410s are becoming really, really popular. But typically the characteristics of a turkey gun is kind of a shorter barrel. The choke is really important. You need a tight, extra full choke. And the gun needs to have the ability to shoot heavy loads. I recommend every shotgun that you turkey hunt with have a sling. It just makes it a lot easier to carry. And you need some kind of matty or camouflage finish. You don't want anything really, really flashy when you're trying to trick one of those toms into getting within 20 or 30 yards. And another thing that's often overlooked is a pair of shooting sticks. I think those are very important to have with you when you're trying to set. You may set for 20 or 30 minutes or longer, waiting on a tom to come in to have your gun up and ready to roll. And what style gun you use, that's entirely up to you. You can go with a pump or a semi-automatic or a single shot, even a double barrel. A lot of people put sights on their turkey guns. You know, there's red dots and there's scopes. I prefer a scope on my gun, but my eyesight's not quite what it was when I was a bunch younger. So that kind of covers everything that I had to cover, and I'll turn it over to Bobby.
All right, Casey, if you can.
Yeah, I'm going to make you host now. Let's see. Well, hey, Rick, I think you have to make him host. I don't have that ability. You just right click him or that little 3 dot up the top, and it should give you a list of things. And you can say, make him the host. Yeah, you're now the host. Like I'm passing the baton.
Clear my screen here.
We see it.
Okay, so let's talk about some hunting strategies. It really depends on what type of bird you're hunting. You know, Oklahoma's got several different subspecies of turkeys. I've hunted both Easterns and Rios quite a bit, grew up hunting Easterns, then moved to Western Oklahoma, and now hunt primarily Rios. So there's several different types we do. Both types of hunting birds, you want to, if you can, try to roost them the night before. This is just simply going out, going to where you think a roost spot is, listening in the evening. The turkey, as the gobbler flies up, it lands on the roost tree on the limb. He will sometimes gobble at night. He won't do this all the time. So if you don't hear a gobble, don't think that they're not there. But sometimes they will do this. Now, Rick mentioned a coyote call. I have seen where coyote calls work good in the evenings to locate the birds. So if you do a couple of howls or yelps with your coyote call, there's a lot of times that will set that gobbler off. And the thing is once you get, if you know where that turkey is the night before, well, then the next morning you can have a plan of where to start. So if you know where a bird is the night before, go and try to get close to that bird. But if you don't, then start at a listening point the next morning and try to listen for birds on the roost. This is probably the most active that they're gobbling is when they're on the roost in the morning. When you hear the gobble, try to get as close to 200 yards from it. Now, if you're in wooded areas, then you sneak through the woods and get close. If you're out here in Western Oklahoma and you have fields and then the trees are on the creek banks and stuff like that, you may have to kind of come down the creek bank, but you want to try to close the distance and get as close as you can to the turkey after you located one. Think about setting up in the open. Turkeys don't like to walk in thick areas. I mean, they will, but they would avoid that if possible. This is why, if you have cedar trees or stuff like that on places that you're hunting, turkeys don't like to move through that because they can't see predators that good. So they kind of when you pick your spot to set up, try not to set up in a spot that's fully around some thick cedar trees. Make sure you use a big tree, rock, stump, something like that for camo and protection. If possible, you want your backdrop to be bigger than you. So, a big tree, big rock, stuff like that, and lean up against that and get comfortable. As Rick talked about with the vest, some vests have a built-in seat, but if it does, your vest don't have a built-in seat, or if you don't have a built-in seat, I would suggest carrying a seat with you. They make turkey chairs that's kind of set low to the ground, and they're easy to carry, and they make it a lot more comfortable if you're going to sit there, because you need to be patient. I've had turkeys come running into me, and then I've had to work birds for an hour to hour and a half before something happens. So you just never know how quick or how long this is going to last. Be ready. Rick talked about using a tripod or shooting sticks for your gun. If you don't have that, have your gun on your knee. Now, I will tell you, I have missed several birds because I didn't think there was any birds around me, and I got comfortable, and kind of put the gun down by my leg and stretched out, took my camouflage off, and was, eating a snack or something like that, and then looked up, the gobbler standing right in front of me. So I have learned over time, don't do that, and to be ready at all times. You want to sit with your offhand side toward the gobbler. So if you're right-handed, you kind of want to sit where your left hand is more towards the gobble, so you can shoot, and if you're left-handed, you switch that position on there. Calling strategy, it's very important to call well, but you don't need to be a turkey calling champion to call a turkey. Matter of fact, if you're a new hunter, if you just learn the yelp, the plain basic yelp of a turkey, that can call a turkey in. Call sparingly at first, and when I start calling in the morning, when I start trying to communicate to a turkey, I'm testing that turkey's temperature. I want to know how aggressive he will or will not be. So if he's aggressive, I will call more. If he's not real aggressive, I'm going to not call as much and let him come to me. When he's in the tree, I don't call much at all with a turkey call while he's in the tree. I may do what's called a tree yelp, which is a very, very soft yelp. It's very, very low. The purpose of that call is to just let that tom know that you're over here waiting for him, because what you're trying to do is imitate the female turkey. If he gobbles and you get excited and you just keep calling to him, well, you got to understand that in nature, the hen normally goes to the gobbler. So what you're trying to do is reverse nature and have the gobbler come to the hen. And if you're calling to him all the time and he's gobbling while he's up in a tree, he's going to expect you to come to him. And if you do that, he's going to see the you and not come. Once the turkey's on the ground, you may want to call a little more. You can tell the difference because they'll be extremely loud, seems like loud in the tree. Then all of a sudden, after a while, they'll be muffled. And usually when they're muffled like that or not as loud, that turkey's on the ground at that point. You can call a little bit more than that. If you call while you're seeing the turkey, be very careful, because if you're using a box call or a slate call like that, that turkey, like Rick said, he's got real good eyesight, and they will pick up that movement. So that's where a mouth call comes in. But a lot of times, just sit there. They know where you're at. If he called and he answered, he knows exactly where you're at. Just let him work. Be patient. Let him work to you. If he don't come, don't give up. There's a slew of reasons why he doesn't come. Does he have some hens already with him? Well, he's not going to leave these hens to go to another set of hens. There may be a barrier in between you and them. This is where scouting and knowing your area is real important, because I worked a bird for 45 minutes and he never would come to me, and ended up trying to move a little bit closer. Well, then I found I was in the mountain areas and found there was about a 40-foot cliff. He was down at the bottom of the 40-foot cliff. So that's why he hung up on me. But if you do decide to move, be careful. Just remember, especially if you're hunting public land, that you are imitating a turkey, and other hunters may think you are a turkey. So be extremely careful if you do start moving. And if you do see another hunter, identify yourself as a hunter, so they're not thinking it's another turkey, and be a lot safer that way. So you get out in the morning, you don't hear one. Well, Rick talked about locator calls. I shared a meme the other day on my Facebook page of Hulk Hogan doing his hand to his ear listening. And the memes just said, well, every time I hear a crow call, I will listen for a gobble, and that I have noticed that. So a lot of times I'll let Mother Nature do the locating for me. So if I'm walking and I hear a crow, I'm going to stop and listen to see if I hear a gobble from a bird. And if I do hear a gobble, then I will move towards that bird. If I'm going to do what's called a run and gun type hunting, well, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to move a couple hundred yards, set up, and I'm going to call for 15, 30, 40 minutes and see if a turkey comes. If nothing comes, then I'll get up and move another couple hundred yards. And I'll keep doing that as long as I'm going to hunt. If I do not walk and call, so again, you do want to sound like a turkey, but you don't want to sound like a turkey to other hunters. And if you're walking and calling at the same time, that could give another hunter the impression that you're a real live turkey. So don't do that. But so the run and gun is set up, walk 100 so yards, call, do it again, and you just keep moving around until you pick up a bird. The other way to hunt, and it works best out here in Western Oklahoma for me to do this, is to just set up and pretty much set in one area and call every 15 to 20 minutes and have a turkey. You never know when a turkey comes by and will answer you. And a lot of times you just never know when a turkey will show up. A lot of times they'll come in silent and you just look up and there he is, which is, hopefully you're prepared and ready for him. So you do get a turkey in, let them get close. They recommend 40 yards, but it really depends on what your gun and your ammo can shoot. If you haven't went out and patterned your shotgun, you need to do that. See how far you can shoot. When I was teaching my wife how to turkey hunt, she hunted with a 20 gauge. I happened to hunt with a 10 gauge that day, and we had turkeys come in, and the closest they got to us was 55 yards. Well, her 20 gauge I knew would only shoot about 30 yards and have a lethal kill. But my 10 gauge, I knew I could shoot out to 90 yards and be able to shoot the turkey. So you need to know what your gun, what the distance your gun will shoot. But if you don't, I would say 35, 40 yards is what I would try to get them in. If you can see his head, he can see you. So if your gun is off a little bit and you're not pointing at them, a lot of times when turkeys come up and they're strutting, they will fan out and they'll spin around and turn around. When his head goes where you can't see it, that's when you need to move. Now, with that being said, be careful, because if there's multiple turkeys there, just because his head you can't see his head doesn't mean the other turkeys can't see you. So you have to be careful on that. If you shoot and he flops, you see a lot of people on TV run to him. I don't recommend doing that. If you're carrying your gun and that's not on safety, then that could be a dangerous situation if you was to trip and fall. The other two is if you don't have a lethal kill on him, he may try to get up and run. Well, if you're not ready to follow up with a shot to get a second shot, you may lose that bird. And even though he may be wounded and he may succumb to his injuries later on, it's hard to track a turkey. It's not like a deer. They don't leave a blood trail like a deer would. So remember, once you pull the trigger, you can't take it back. So make sure you make a positive ID. Rick said, don't wear red, white, and blue, as you see in this picture here. Not only can a turkey see that, but you don't want another hunter thinking that you're a turkey head and get shot that way. So make sure you identify your target, make sure you know what you're shooting at, and make sure that it's a legal turkey for you to shoot. So, Casey, that's all I had.
Okay, it says I can reclaim the host, so I just did that. So you're good, Bobby, on there. I don't need you to do anything else. Well, guys, I sure appreciate your presentations. That was really beneficial and lots of good information there. So, of course, now I want to open it up to some question and answers here in the chat. So, if you guys think of them, if any of what they said sparked any questions for you, please be sure to put them in the chat, or you can raise your hand and I can call on you. Raise your hand as in like you go down here to the reactions and you hit raise hand. But I do, since we're here right now, if you were here for the last series or part 1 of the series, I give you guys a code word so that you guys can email me it back, so I know that you guys attended. So the code word for this one, and it's another slang term for turkeys, is called thunder chicken. So I want you guys to email me that word thunder chicken, just so I know that you guys attended this one. So kind of trying to keep it fun, come up with some silly things that you just don't quite think of. Okay, so one of the questions, I'm going to start field questions now. When do turkeys roost in the evening? Sunset or after sunset is the question.
So turkeys typically, it really depends. So it will be right before it gets dark. But I have seen some turkeys roost a couple of hours before sunset. But definitely once sunset goes down and it's hard for them to see it, they will be up in the trees because that's their safe zone. They don't want to be on the ground if they can't see predators.
Good deal. Timothy says, I am taking an 8-year-old with a 410. Will a 3-inch shell 5-shot work?
I'll take that one. And my grandson used that same load his first year when he was about 8 or 9. It will get it done. The problem I think with that is most 410s don't have a very tight choke. So you're going to have to get that bird really close. I would recommend looking at the TSS loads if you can find them in a number 9 shot. The downside to those are they're very expensive. For 410s, I don't know, they probably run about $10 a shell, but they're a lot more effective. But yes, a 3-inch number 5 and a 410 will get it done if you can get that bird close enough and he can get a good headshot.
Right, good deal. Okay, should you shoot when he is all fanned, the head looks low against the chest?
Take that. So my preference is for him to extend his head. Once he extends the head, then I'm going to aim where the neck and the feathers meet together. That's my aiming point. But you got to keep in mind the feathers, in a way, act like a bulletproof vest. So if he's got his head tucked in the feathers, some shot may hit a vital area, but a lot of shot won't. So if you can, sometimes if I've got a mouth call in my mouth and he's fanned out like that, I may do a cut or something like that with a mouth call that he can't see me move, but I want him to stick his head out to gobble. And when he does, I'm going to be ready to pull the trigger.
Okay. I saw Chad. Are you seconding that, Chad?
Absolutely. Yeah. You don't.
Okay.
I won't shoot at a bird that's full strutted out. I want him to stretch his neck.
Yeah. Okay. So how much do the hills in eastern Oklahoma impact how far your calls reach? That's a good question.
Yeah, I can take that too. I've hunted quite a bit in southeast Oklahoma and those doggone mountains where it's uphill everywhere you go. And it will definitely affect it. One of the things, it will restrict how far your calls go, or it can echo them and send the calls, the sound even further. It kind of depends on the lay of the land. But one of the things I found very interesting, and Bobby may have some insight on this being an Arkansas guy, is I've never been able to call a turkey downhill. I can call them uphill, but I can't call them downhill. And I think it's because they lose their sense of being able to escape if they're coming downhill. Bobby, is that consistent?
Yeah, so that's what. So when I run and gun, if I'm going to run and gun, I'm going to get on top of a ridge and I'm going to stay on that ridge. And you call turkeys up a hill. And what I was always told by old timers is because if the turkey, you got to realize the turkey is always looking for predators, and theoretically we're a predator. So by going up the hill, if the turkey has to turn and run down, he can pitch off of the hill and fly away. Whereas if he's coming down the hill and there's a predator, he's got to pitch and go back up the hill, which is extremely difficult. So on that, one thing I'll add on the calls is the type of call will make a big difference too. So a wing bone call is not going to be very loud, whereas a mouth call is going to be mediocre. You can kind of control the volume, but if it's a windy day and I want to reach out there and try to get my call through, I'm going to use a box call. And I can be extremely loud with that box call and get it further down where turkeys can hear on there. So, but they do the hills will, the trees will also make it muffled too. and not go the wood, the trees will absorb your sound as well. So.
Okay. What would be the best WMA in Southeast? Whoa, I skipped. How necessary is it to have decoys? If you're not an experienced caller, are decoys more or less beneficial? If so, one or multiple decoys in a spread? Question mark.
Both.
Both.
Yeah, all of the above.
I've seen decoys bring turkeys in, and I've seen decoys run turkeys out.
Yeah.
I don't know. There is one you kind of called, your code word is thunder chicken, but there is a decoy called the funky chicken. And I had a fellow NWTF member out of Altus asked me if I had one, and I told him no, I didn't have one, because if you ever seen one, they don't look nothing like a turkey. He said, you got to try it. It's crazy. So I tried one, and I was very surprised at how well it worked. But like at the same time, I've seen decoys run turkeys way too. So decoys ain't always the best thing on that. You know, as far as how many decoys, hen and jake is what I would carry. You know, I've seen some people that will use a hen and put it like she's being bred by the jake. You got to go back to when we were all in high school and how we chased, you know, girls and stuff. It's kind of the same in the turkey world. When you see a little, you know, someone trying to pick on your girlfriend, you're going to go over there and try to run him off. Well, that's kind of what a gobbler does to a jake. When he sees a jake with a hen, he's going to try to run her off, and it'll help bring you in. So,
and Bobby, and I would add to that you mentioned earlier about kind of checking the temperature of the turkey to see, you know, if they're very aggressive or they're very laid back. If they're very laid back, I may only use a hen decoy. But if I've got 2 or 3 toms running together and they seem to be pretty aggressive, I may put a jake and a hen decoy out there.
Well, and that's what I like about turkey hunting, because it's fluid. Every day is a different hunt, and you got to be able to have more tricks in your bag, because you're just trying to outfox a turkey, and it's kind of trying to figure out what they're going to do based is what you're going to react to. So that's what's the joy about turkey hunting.
Okay. All right. So what would be the best WMA in Southwest Oklahoma for success for the little one?
Any of them. You know, just you can't harvest a bird. Well, I guess you could if you brought a tame turkey in, but you can't harvest a bird sitting on your couch. You know, I hunt black kettle. I own property, but I still like to hunt public land when I get a chance, just for the challenge of it. But any WMA anywhere in the state, I think has just as much success or chance of harvesting a turkey. I think you guys are going to cover that next week, right, Casey?
Yes, we are. We'll talk about all the places, all the public land places to go, OLAP, and then some of the core lands as well. Okay. Next question is, which camo patterns are the most popular in Northeast or Southeast Oklahoma in the spring?
You know, I can throw an answer out there, and I don't know that it really matters. I'm a big fan of natural gear pattern, and I like the mossy oak. I can't remember what it's called, but in my mind, there's 2 kinds of camo patterns. There's what I call sticks and leaves, and you can vision, you know, the camo pattern that has the leaves and the sticks and all that stuff in it. And then there's the camo patterns like that don't have that. They just break up your outline. And I can't think what that mossy oak pattern is called, where it looks like tree bark. I prefer that, or natural gear, or some of the Sitka type patterns, those kind of things. But I don't really think it matters as long as you're covered pretty much head to toe. I even wear sunglasses because I'm afraid them rascals can see me blink. And besides that, I wear glasses, and I don't want the glasses to reflect anything to them. So yeah, any good quality material that's quiet, I think you're okay on the camo side.
Let me jump in there real quick, Rick. I think you're talking about bottomland.
Yep, I think you're right. Yep.
Yep.
The other thing I try to do, just on that same subject, is I try to stay in the shade. I don't want the sun glaring down on me. I try to tuck in a cedar tree or get, 8 or 10 feet inside the tree line in front of a field. I think that helps a whole lot.
Which brings up another important gear that I carry, and that's some type of pruning shears. I carry a pruning shears and a saw, so I can trim out a cedar tree and crawl up in there, then use the branches to kind of make a blind in front of me. And I carry a saw if it's a bigger limb I need to cut. But pruning shears and saws are a must-have in my turkey vest.
I think this could be kind of a fun thing to ask all of our panel guys here is like, what on each of you guys go down the line, what are your necessities in your bags, in your gear bags? Like, what are the things that you don't go in the woods without whenever you go out turkey hunt?
Toilet paper.
That's the truth.
I always carry a thermocell. And I always treat my clothes with Sawyers. We talked about that last week. I try to carry several different calls because, like Bobby was talking about earlier, taking their temperature. Some birds will react to one call and others won't. And you have to go through them in order to figure out which one they're going to react to. So I carry, I don't know how many diaphragm calls I carry in my vest. It's really silly. But yeah, you just got to check the temperature.
Well, and I've been hunting for over 30 years turkey. So when I first started hunting, I carried a pot call. That was my call. But I'm like Chad on that. If I hear a hen, that's nothing we didn't talk about. If I hear a hen with that gobbler, and I know I have a call that sounds like her, that's the same tone and everything, I will switch to that call but then I will, instead of calling the gobbler, I'm going to start trying to call her, and I'm going to do everything in my power to make her mad. And if I can make her mad where she wants to come find me, she's going to bring that Tom right. He's going to follow her. So I'm going to bring, as far as my vest, besides pruning shears, saw, I carry several different calls. I carry slate calls to box calls to tube calls. That way I have different deals. I carry a bunch of different strikers because each striker makes a different sound on a pot call. I carry a call conditioning kit, so I can condition my calls. If my slate call needs some sandpaper or something, I can do that in the field. Binoculars is another thing I carry because Rick talked about don't wear black. Well, I can't tell you how many times I've seen something in a field and thought it was a turkey, but then when I pulled my binoculars up, it was just a black mineral tub. That saved me about a 300-yard walk a lot of times, thinking it was a turkey. And then locator calls, crow call would be my go-to, but then I've carried woodpecker calls. They'll answer that a lot of times. And then, carry shells. I carry shotgun shells too, in case I need more than one on that.
Yep. Hey, and to reiterate Bobby's point about making that hen mad, if you imitate every sound she makes, she will get hacked off. And that's one thing, I've got a really good skill set at making the female of the species mad, and it really, really works well. And it's just a lot of fun. It's just a lot of fun to make that hen mad and come to you.
I'm glad you elaborated on that. I was kind of curious, like how exactly do you tick another hen off? So
just
mimic her.
Just mirror everything she says.
That's pretty cool.
It's a blast. I love doing that.
When you're talking your locator calls, Bobby, one thing that Jacob and I carry in the field, and it's usually how we find them the night before, is a coyote call. Mm-hmm. You can take those diaphragms and make it sound like a coyote. I'm not good at it, but he is. And we have been able to locate very easily groups of turkeys doing the coyote call. It just startles them. And another thing in the morning, if you get out there One thing I've always done is if we have our truck is I'll slam my tailgate or something, make a very loud, abrupt noise, and you'll hear a gobble somewhere. They'll just startle and they'll gobble. I don't know if that's custom for everybody else, but it's something that just startles them, and you can kind of get a direction of where you want to take off in the morning. You guys have anything to say?
Yeah, so on that with the Coyote and there, both of them work. Both of them will do a shot gobble, but from what my experience and what I was told by people who taught me many years ago, that by slamming the door or even doing the Coyote, that's letting the turkey know there's predators in the area. I don't like slamming the door. It will definitely work. I was a paramedic on the ambulance, and I even used a siren one time, and they hammered to that siren. But the thing is I don't want them to know there's a predator there, whether it's a coyote or me. So that's the reason I like to use the crow calls, the peacock or the woodpecker calls, stuff like that, to where they're not on edge of, hey, there's a predator in the area. But yeah, definitely you slam the door and they will gobble like crazy.
That's a good point. I use the coyote call at night before just to locate and then go back the next morning. So
because if he's up on his roost and you use a coyote, he's not going to fly down because there's coyote underneath him. But in the morning, if you use it, he may stay up on that roost and not come down because he thinks there's a coyote somewhere down there and he doesn't want to be ate. So
yeah,
just something to think about. I mean, it definitely works.
Yeah, definitely timing.
My preference for early morning right at daybreak is an owl call.
Yeah, owl hoot.
I love to do that because that's a lot of fun too, getting all the owls stirred up, because you can get them to holler back and forth at each other. And once you get them started, all you got to do is listen. And those owls will squall back and forth at each other, and they'll make a turkey gobble.
Well, and that's what I do. If I can get nature to do its own course, if there's owls hooting anyways, then I just shut up and listen and let nature do it. And then that way the turkey doesn't, there's no chance the turkey knows I'm in that area. So
are owls a predator of turkey?
They'll eat the poults.
That's what I thought. Okay.
I don't, Bobby, I don't know that they will attack a mature bird.
I haven't seen it. I've seen hawks do it.
I've seen hawks do it. I've seen coyotes do it. I've seen bobcats do it, but I've seen evidence of owls tearing up poults. But
yeah, I mean, they're a predator bird.
They'll go after a mature bird, hen or gobbler.
Okay, I think we wore out that subject. I'm going to ask another question. It says, if you roost the night before and they go silent in the morning, how long will you sit before moving to another area?
I let my gut tell me how long to sit, because just because he goes silent doesn't mean he's not there. And just because he goes silent doesn't mean he won't come to you. There's a whole list of reasons why that bird went silent. If I hear him in the roost and they fly down, and the one thing I know is if they didn't come by me, there's only three other directions they went. He either went straight in front of me, or to my right, or to my left. Now I've got to figure out which way did he go, and then come up with a plan on how I'm going to circle and get in front of him. More than likely, if he's not gobbling, chances are he's got hens with him, and you just didn't see the hens. And like I said, he's going to go with his girls every time before he comes to you. Unless you can make his girls mad, he's not coming to you. So it really just depends on your gut. And just because he doesn't gobble doesn't mean there won't be another turkey come in behind you that you didn't even know that was there. So it's just, when you feel like you need to move, then move.
Yeah, that and Bobby was talking about barriers earlier. That turkey will go to a barrier and that's as far as he'll go. I've had a lot of success at finding that barrier and going back and hunting the same bird the next day right at the barrier. And I've had an awful lot of success with that. And that's a lot of fun too.
Okay. Rich asks, do you have to get to stand before first light for a morning hunt?
So I got a funny story on that. So I learned how to turkey hunt when I was a teenager. I didn't have a mentor or anybody take me. So I'm 14 years old, and all I heard old timers do is, you got to get out there before daylight. So that equated to me as a 14-year-old kid, I needed to be out there at 3 o'clock in the morning. So I'm out in the woods at 3 o'clock in the morning and it's pitch black. And I don't know for sure what this was. I mean, a lot of people say it may have been a panther or a mountain lion. Some people say there's not any, but there was a scream that sounded like a woman screaming, and I could not get any closer to that tree. And that was the longest couple hours before it became daylight. And that was the last time I did this. So this weekend I went out Sunday and listened for birds, and I noticed the birds started gobbling about 6:45 out here in western Oklahoma. So what I would suggest is get out there 6:15, 6:30, let everything settle down, be quiet, and just listen. And then when they gobble, you need to make a game plan and go. That's 6:15 would be the earliest that I would get. Now, with that being said, if I'm hunting public land, when I teach hunter ed classes, I try to emphasize this on ethics, that if you're hunting public land, first person there, that's their spot. You need to have another spot to go to. So with that being said, I will try to get there early on public land in hopes that other people will respect that I'm there first and go to another spot. Sometimes that works. It seems like we're losing ethics, so it may not work. Guy may pull up right beside you and get out. If you guys find yourself in a situation and someone else beats you there to a spot, go to another spot and let them have that spot. But if I'm hunting public land, I'll get there a couple of hours and sit in my truck just to more or less mark my spot. So
I like to get in the woods when there's enough light for me to see to walk through, but it's still pretty dark, if that makes sense. That's just a comfort level for me, that I don't have to shine a flashlight while I'm walking through the woods.
Yeah, I have two different ways. So like in central Oklahoma where we're at, we get out, if we locate them the night before and we know where we're going to go set up, we get out there before daylight, of course, and you set up and you know that they're going to come down and right after sun comes up. But when we go hunt the Washtenaws, which is down in southeast Oklahoma, we stay in a little cabin that our friends have, and it's surrounded by public land, the Ouachita Mountain, all around. And we go sit on our front porch and we drink our coffee and we listen for those turkeys to gobble. And then at that point, it's daylight. And then you just kind of head off in the direction of where you hear those turkeys gobble. You make a sit there for 30 minutes or 45 minutes. And if you just kind of just go to where you're hearing the birds. Really, it's a whole different kind of, I've never really hunted other than farther than Weatherford, Oklahoma, west, but in the Ouachita's, you kind of just sit and listen and then head to where, at least that's how we've done it. And there probably is multiple ways to do it, but we've had success doing that on public land. So I'm going to say it works. But yeah, it's just a little different when you know where the birds are the night before versus when you're just trying to listen for them the morning of, and then head out and get going. So would you guys second that, or am I completely off base? I got a thumbs up.
Seems to work for you. That'll work.
Okay, you also are in eastern Oklahoma, Chad. So how would you hunt in eastern Oklahoma?
Turkey's a turkey. I think the eastern is probably the hardest bird to hunt in this part of the country. So I hunt them all like I would at eastern. Okay. If you can fool an eastern, you can fool a Rio or a Merriam. That's 3 species here.
So what do you do?
Do what? Do what?
I don't know if that was.
I don't either. Yeah, like you said, they're forest ninjas.
Yeah.
You've got to be careful how you set up on them. You got to be careful how you go to them. I generally, if I'm running and gunning, which I mostly do, if I strike a gobble, I won't go to it. I'll set up and get him to come into me.
Yeah,
because,
we do a in between.
Walk face to face with him.
Yeah, and to preface, when I don't like beeline to it, we get in the general direction and we set up, and hopefully, like the next saddle or the next saddle over. When I say saddle, as in between 2 hills, basically, they'll come up and meet us. But you just kind of go in that general direction just because you know that there's turkeys in that area, and then you head off, but don't get super close to them or try to come right up on them. You want them to all come to you.
Absolutely. If I, midday, I get one to gobble at me, I'm probably not going to go too far towards him. I'm going to go ahead and set up and try and call him into me because I have walked face to face with them and you can't react fast enough.
Mm-mm. Okay. So how late in the morning will a tom be responsive to a call?
All day long.
All breeding season. They'll go off all day.
Now I was always, under my thought is if a tom gobbles to you after lunch, he's coming to you. He typically doesn't have any hens with him. He's very interested in you. So if you can strike up one at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and he responds to your call, set up like Chad said, set up and get ready because he's coming. And a lot of turkeys are killed mid-morning to late afternoon. And I think a lot of hunters quit hunting the first hour and a half after daylight. And I tell people to come out here and hunt with me, and with the Rios, this needs to be an all-day hunt. Plan on an all-day hunt. Have a lunch with you, plan what your lunch is going to be, carry some snacks, carry some drinks. But, yeah, if you can get 11, 12, 1 o'clock to gobble at you, that's you unless you mess it up, you should have a turkey in the bag.
Yeah, no doubt. And then the thing is those turkeys fly down and those toms are wanting to breed right then. And like we talked last week, they're going to breed as fast as they can. And then those hens are going to go tend to their nest. And while those hens are tending to their nest, I promise you, those gobblers are looking for more hens. Mm-hmm. So mid-morning is a really good time, early afternoon, late afternoon. If it's during the mating season, it's game on.
And we touched on this last week, but the only time I've found that they have just really not been responsive is on those unusually hot days where they're in shade, and they're like prioritizing staying cool and, not expending energy versus trying to mate. And we have had some very hot days in spring turkey season. So, if you have the heat of the day and you're hot, that most likely those turkeys are probably under some shade too. So if you're not getting a whole lot, maybe maybe kind of wait it out until that cools down a little bit, because most likely they're just trying to stay cool and not expend a bunch of energy, in my experience.
That brings up a good point. If it is hot, then you need to be hunting trees, shade. Stuff, because that's where the turkeys are going to be at. We OSU actually done a study at Pack Saddle where they put a collar on our transmitter on a hen, and several of us with the NWTF got to go on their research, and we kind of walked the footsteps of the turkey, and we found that during the hot part of the day, she spent all of her time in the shade. Mm-hmm. So think about that. If it's hot later on in May, be looking in the shade, because that's where they're going to be at.
Couldn't agree more. And when it's extremely windy, because there's so much movement with the forest and the weeds and the grasses that they want to get in someplace where a low spot and in the shade to where they're protected a little bit and they can see better.
Yeah. Timothy asks, are you going to go over what to look for when map scouting areas? I will try to do my best on that next week. That'll be talking about public hunting land. And reading aerials and stuff. I definitely think that would be helpful, especially when you're going somewhere blind, you're going in blind, it's definitely a good skill to know how to read aerials and how to kind of gauge where those pinch points are. In Southeast Oklahoma, when do the gobblers start corralling the hens?
So when will the gobblers start mating hens? Maybe if that's the case, they're doing it now.
Yeah,
they're doing it now, and hopefully we'll get a lot of the mating done by the time turkey season rolls around. I mean, that's the purpose for those of you that realize that our turkey season got moved back 10 days, is to give the gobblers a chance to make the hens before we harvest the gobblers. So hopefully they're doing it now.
Yeah, we We touched on that last week. Reasons why they extended pushed back the opening weekend on there.
Seems to be the trigger for the breeding season is just about the time the days are starting to get longer, and that something in that seems to trigger them, and they're breeding as soon as we start having longer days.
Yep.
That's my experience.
I've got a trail cam picture in Pushmataha County, April the 4th, and there's a tom and a hen that's locked up taking care of business in that picture.
That would make sense because, I mean, turkey season started the 6th usually, but just everybody watch out. All the wardens, including my husband, are going to be out April 6th, ready for people to not know about the regulations change. And he's going to be, I guess that's tomorrow. Ooh, that's tomorrow.
Don't go hunting tomorrow.
Don't go hunting tomorrow, people. All the wardens are ready to get some tickets. So, because it's been that way for years. So I guarantee you there's going to be some old timers out there that haven't checked the hunting regulations in a long time. Some poor soul is going to get wrote a ticket because they hadn't changed it in years. Okay. So do turkeys roost in the same trees every night? We kind of discussed that. We'll let's answer this question real fast, and then I'm going to have to cut us off here just so we can kind of continue, kind of keep this at an hour here. So anybody want to answer that before we wrap it up?
Typically, the eastern turkeys don't. They will roost and they'll have roost areas, but they don't. Now the Rios won't roost in the same tree per se, but they typically roost in the same general area. Now, sometimes they will roost in the same tree, but so the Rios are more apt to roost in the same tree area, where Easterns, there's no rhyme or reason that I know of to doing that. So
it's been my experience too.
And I think the Merriams, which we don't have a big population, they will act more like Rios in that sense, from my experience.
Okay, guys. So similar to last week's, I'm going to try to get this posted, uploaded as soon as possible. Our webmaster is out of pocket for a week or two, and so I'm not getting him uploaded to the actual website. But if you remember last week, I just uploaded it to my personal YouTube channel until I can get it moved over, just so I can get this information out there as fast as possible to you guys. Once I can get it uploaded to the website, which I'll send a link out again, like I did last time, and then it'll be deleted off the other YouTube channel. So, and I do want to remind everybody again, if you haven't sent Thunder Chicken, make sure you do, because after I posted the last week's video, I had a few people hear the code word and send it in all slyly after the fact. And so after they saw the video on YouTube, and I knew what was happening there. So, but anyways, yes, make sure you send me Thunder Chicken, and hopefully we'll see you guys back here next Tuesday for the last of the series. And someone says my audio is not working. Hopefully, well, you could rewatch this. Hopefully that works for you. Yeah, we'll see you back for the third and final part of Turkey Tuesday. And hopefully after that, I can give away some of these vests. So Thunder Chicken, I see it. Yes, send me it in the email that I sent you the link in. That's just respond to that email that I sent the link in for this video with Thunder Chicken, and that'll work for me. Okay, guys, thank you so much again for all of our speakers and our panel here. We couldn't do this without you guys. I really appreciate you guys spending time here and educating and helping us out here.
Thank you.
Good luck, everybody.
Okay, thanks everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Be safe and shoot straight.
Patty just sent us the house. You want to look at it?
All right. We'll see you later. Bye, guys.
Bye.